The second round is off to a bang as the New York Knicks take the upset win in game one, 108-105 over the Boston Celtics. Wingstop was in full effect. Jalen Brunson had some clutch shots down the stretch. This game had pretty much everything you could ask for, and we're getting into it right now on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome in to Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. I'm Alex Wolf. I'm editor-in-chief of Knicks site The Strickland, which you can find at thestrick.land. And he's Gavin Shaw, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster, and the Saturday co-host of the Locked On NBA podcast. And today we are going over the Knicks' big win, 108-105 over the Boston Celtics. Game one of the second round. I know neither of us thought this was going to happen. I'm sure plenty of other people did not think it was going to happen either, but the Knicks hung in there, erased a 20-point deficit. We're going to get into how that happened, how OG Anunoby had one of his best games, if not his best game of the entire playoffs, if not the entire year, if not his entire Knicks career. Jalen Brunson made tons of great shots for the Knicks. Mikal Bridges, not tons of shot making, but tons of impact on this game. So lots to talk about when we get into it. But we first just want to thank you all for making Locked On Knicks first listen today and every day, whether you're checking us out on your favorite podcast platform or taking in the sights and sounds on YouTube. We appreciate you making this part of your daily routine. Make sure you hit the auto download function on your favorite podcast app or the notification bell on YouTube so you never miss an episode. So Gavin, this game, 108-105, Knicks beat the Celtics. So many places to go with this. It ends up going to overtime. There's a would-be Jalen Brunson game winner at the end of regulation that just barely doesn't go in at one of his signature shots. Honestly, one of the best after timeout plays I think I've ever seen drawn up from Tibbs. So clearly he saved some of his best work for this game. Just phenomenal defense from Mikal Bridges, phenomenal defense and shot making from OG Anunoby, who just had his impact felt all over this game. I mean, where do you want to start this one on this crazy first game in the second round?
First, I'm in a hotel room, so I didn't want to scream too loud. But I'll just let it out now. Let's go! This is the first time in months this team has made me feel something. I know some of you have commented on that, but I've been in kind of a place of acceptance that like this was just maybe not the worst case scenario for the Knicks in the sense that like there wasn't some kind of traumatic injury this year, but it did feel like, given the talent that they assembled and the fact that talent was relatively healthy, like that this was going the wrong way, at least to me. And not that tonight like necessarily changes that. Like the Knicks obviously benefit from the fact that the Celtics miss 45 3-pointers in this game, which is the most, I think, by a decent margin that any team has ever missed in a single playoff game. And yet, Alex, if I told you coming in that the Knicks would give up 19 offensive rebounds in this one and would shoot 17-31 from the foul line, I would have said they probably would lose by 25 plus. But given the way the Celtics shot, given all the misses, like this became a game that the Knicks absolutely had to win. And it's why it was so incredibly gut-wrenching when that shot that Jalen Brunson, I mean, we've seen him hit game winners just in this playoffs that have a degree of difficulty of 1,000-fold compared to that. Not that it's an easy shot, right? Al Horford's right there. He got a great contest on it, but that is a shot that Jalen Brunson makes in his sleep. It goes in and out, and you just had this sinking feeling like the basketball gods gifted one to the Knicks. And as this happened so often this year, like they couldn't accept the gift. And then they put together an incredibly gutty overtime. And despite the fact that Brunson, I think maybe, I should have double checked this, maybe has 2 points in OT, but is pretty much a non-factor because Drew Holiday plays great defense on him. The Knicks are still able to somehow, some way, but he does not score in overtime. The Knicks are able to somehow, some way hold on, pull it off. Mikal Bridges, who was like just incredible defensively in this one down the stretch, 51 minutes, makes a game-winning play, anticipating the lob to Jaylen Brown, getting there at the exact same time. And I think my favorite part about that, we've associated Bridges all year with like frailty and lack of physicality, and he just rips the ball out of Jaylen Brown, who's freaking jacked, just rips the ball out of his hands, throws it in the air. Knicks take game one. Gutty game from the Wings, 51 minutes for Bridges, 46 for Anunoby, 45 for Hart. I think what those three guys did in the third quarter, particularly Anunoby and Hart, kind of flipped this game on its head.
Yeah, I was going to say, a game full of guys ripping the ball out of people's hands. Josh Hart did the exact same thing late in this game, forced a turnover where I forget who it was.
He had one on Peyton Pritchard. I don't know if you might be talking about a different one.
I think it was the one on Pritchard where Pritchard ends up on the ground.
As in the third quarter. Yeah.
Right. And Hart just reaches down, grabs the ball out of his hands. Almost looked like it was going to be a jump ball, but he got such a good tug on it that he managed to just pull the ball completely free, start a fast break that way. And that one led to a Brunson 3, if I recall correctly. I mean, just a crazy good game from him and from OG and from Mikal. Like, I think the big thing from the Knicks here is, like you mentioned, the huge 3-point shooting miss number, but I mean the fact that the Celtics wound up shooting 63s as a team in this game is crazy because I don't think they wanted to shoot that many threes. I think that early on it looked like they wanted to try to exploit getting inside, try to get to the line, but this is not a team that spent a lot of time at the free throw line this year, and the Knicks might have sort of figured out their Achilles heel a little bit here where they're not exactly adept at getting inside despite having this 5-out spacing. They were playing a little scared on the inside, honestly. Like, whenever they would get there, the Knicks were sending aggressive help defense under the hoop, which was then forcing guys into panic situations where they're trapped on the baseline, having to kick it out to someone. And then, to the credit of OG and Mikal and Josh, they were like fully ready to close out on any given guy, even if it was like sort of like I don't want to call it a half-hearted contest, but like a contest that you looked at on TV and said, like, oh man, I don't know if he got all of that one. Like, as far as a contest, it's clear that, like, at a certain point Boston started hearing footsteps and it was affecting their shots. Like, their threes just looked really off down the stretch of this game. Like, they seemed shook. They seemed like they were afraid of, the Knicks defenders getting a hand in their face, because more than one time, and particularly Bridges had a phenomenal block 3 at one point in this game. But, like, these guys were getting those long arms in people's faces and really making themselves be felt, to the point where then it had guys second guessing later on if a guy was close enough to potentially, block their shot or whatever, and you could see it affecting their release and everything. I don't know if, like, look, the Celtics, to their credit, also have a ton of really great tough shot makers that just didn't make tough shots in this game. Obviously, we've seen it from Jason Tatum throughout this regular season. Jalen Brown has done it to the Knicks at different times. Porzingis didn't play the whole second half, which I don't think should go unrecognized. Like, that was definitely a big portion of the Knicks being able to get things together in the second half. I think was just he didn't play well in the first half, but his presence was felt. Yeah. And, not even having that presence in the second half, Luke Cornett gets in foul trouble, which meant they had to rely heavily on Al Horford. And, like, that SOB is an ageless wonder, and it annoys the crap out of me. But, like, him playing 34 minutes, probably not ideal at this stage in his career to be playing that many minutes when he's typically more of a spot minutes, like, make the most out of 15 or so minutes kind of guy. So, I think this is a huge strategic win for the Knicks that I didn't really see coming, in the sense that they sort of let Boston do what they wanted to do, in the sense that Boston loves to shoot threes, and yet they made it difficult enough for them while also being imposing enough on the inside to prevent them from doing that. That, like, the Celtics just didn't really have an answer for what the Knicks game plan was down the stretch. And that's why the Knicks were able to go on that huge run, erase that 20-point deficit that they accrued in the first half, and then come away with the win in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the key adjustment from Tom Thibodeau, who in games 3 and 4 against the Celtics switched in spurts. The Knicks were mostly switching from the get-go in this one. There were large with Brunson. They tried a lot of hedge and recover, and that was, like, I need to go back and watch to confirm, but from what I saw, that was pretty disastrous for the most part. Like, I would guess, like, about half of the Celtics 15 made threes came on possessions where Brunson hedged, tried to get back, and just left someone wide open, like, in that gap, before the original defender could get back to his guy. But then down the stretch of this game, they were just switching him. And, like, I'll give Jalen Brunson, this isn't really what I expected to lead this starting off with. Like, he did a really good job multiple times on Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum switching onto them. I mean, the one in overtime where he switched on to Tatum. Tatum tried to shake him. Brunson didn't get shook, and then he bumped him and hit this and tried to go to the step back, and he ends up airballing it. Alex, you're a big Marvel guy. I'll compare it to like Thanos, like punching Captain Marvel in the face, and she doesn't flinch. That was the moment for me. That was really satisfying. I had another one with Jalen Brown where he switched, forced the shot clock to dwindle, and then he sprayed it to Tatum. Tatum ends up missing a layup. That's at the tail end of the fourth quarter. But I thought it was a key adjustment from Tom Thibodeau because to your point, like it got Boston mismatch hunting, and in particular, maybe some of it was that Kristaps Porzingis obviously was sick, but like Kristaps Porzingis was scoreless. I think he finished with 0 points in 13 minutes, and the Knicks early in this game did a great job switching onto him. But that third quarter run, it was 31-13 in total. There was a mini 17-4 stretch in there. To me, it was three guys, right? It was Josh Hart, it was OG Anunoby, it was Jalen Brunson. I thought Hart just like game-changing energy because the Knicks, like, I don't want to say there was no effort there because there were effort, but it was lifeless. And it was kind of like, I think a lot of the tone was set with Josh just refusing to shoot early in this game to the point that he threw a pass out of bounds rather than take an early 20-foot jumper. Like they did not have a lot of energy. They did not have a lot of juice. They did not have a lot of confidence. And I thought Josh Hart just kind of completely flipped that like about halfway through the third quarter.
Yeah, I think so as well. And we'll talk more about it in just a moment, talk more about the Wingstop trio, all the great things that they were able to accomplish in this game, talk a little bit about the bigs and maybe the one sign for concern out of this game, not the strongest Karl-Anthony Towns game, although I think he recovered great down the stretch, but one where he was a little bit played off the floor thanks to foul trouble in the first half. Certainly a little hack-a-Mitch going on, which made that a little bit difficult with Mitch's minutes, though they still managed to win his minutes, particularly down the stretch. So we'll talk more about that and a whole bunch more when we get back in just a moment. But first, I had to let you all know about our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Look at this game. It's certainly plenty of those, all those descriptive words. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. And I'll tell you what, one wager that I found in the first round that I'll probably place again, given how this first game went, you can actually bet on, there's a prop bet where you can bet on a player to make a game-winning shot with time expiring throughout the course of a series. I don't know if that will close now that game one is over, but I'm going to go look for it because after how this game went, I'm like, man, this series might be a little closer than I think. I'm going to go put like $5 on a Jalen Brunson game winner, $5 on OG Anunoby game winner. Maybe they'll do that. And then you get like 2 times the reasons to celebrate. You get money in your pocket to buy a new jersey or whatever. And you get you get satisfaction of a Knicks win. So anyway, if you want to check it out, if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. And if it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. So make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Gavin, we're back in to keep talking through this huge Knicks game one win. Again, 108-105 over the Celtics. And you mentioned Josh Hart and what he was able to bring. To me, it was just the back-breaking rebounds in this game. I mean, he was his best self, I think, in that regard. And I mean, scoring-wise, not much to sneeze at either, other than the fact that like he couldn't get the three-point shot going, but over 50% shooting for him overall in the game, 14 points. Kept his fouls mostly in check, like had 4 personal fouls, but he got, I think, 2 of them in the fourth quarter. So like he managed to keep himself pretty well under control. And the Knicks like really needed him for all those minutes. The 11 boards, 5 of them offensive. I think that the Knicks could still stand to rebound a little better. Like on the overall, you mentioned that Boston had the 19 offensive rebounds, which is crazy. And a lot of those like probably should have gone for buckets. There was a couple of them, like there's a Porzingis one in the first half where he just like inexplicably missed the putback. And then I think there was a Cornette one that ended roughly the same way too, with like 2 offensive rebounds in one sequence.
Yeah.
And they just couldn't quite finish it. So that's certainly something they have to tighten up going forward. But like Hart did everything that he could to make sure that would not be an issue. Also got the Knicks extra possessions that way too. I thought that was, I mean, it was kind of reminiscent of like what his impact was 2 years ago against the Cavs to me, where he made just those like it was what's his famous quote that he said to Mitch? You break their backs, I break their spirits, or something like that. Like something like that. Whatever he said, he like said something to Mitch at one point, like your rebounds do this, and my rebounds break their spirit or break their back, or whatever the heck he said. Either way, like it was one of those games for Hart where it just felt like every time the Knicks needed like an extra possession and a big rebound, like he was able to come up with it, create a lot of extra opportunities for them that way. So, in addition to the fact that he, like his two Wingstop counterparts, I thought just played phenomenal swarming defense. I thought that he was the one, as is usually his role, that was most tasked with like being the guy that had to sprint from one end to the other of the half of the floor, trying to make sure to keep up with whoever. But also reacted well to switches. Had I think a couple good possessions on Tatum at one point or another. Like also was doing a pretty solid job with Porzingis early on too, as well as Mikal Bridges. Like I thought that was pretty revelatory with the switching more often, that like the Knicks were throwing smaller guys on Porzingis and they were able to kind of body him and keep him honest in a way that the Knicks hadn't been able to earlier in the season. So yeah, I loved everything about Josh's game. I thought this was, I say this for almost everybody in this game, but I think it was one of his best games of the postseason so far.
Yeah, that that third quarter stretch, it got kicked off with him getting a rebound and actually taking it coast to coast for a layup off of Tatum, missed three. And I might have missed one. I don't remember him doing that once against Detroit, where like he actually got like a true coast to coast layup. People who have been listening, I've been speculating there's something off with his knee. Looked pretty good there. And then literally the next play, Tatum misses another three and he hits a streaking OG down the court for a jam. OG earlier in the game had given up a rebound for that had turned into a three when he leaked out, but still kept doing it. And that time he made the Celtics pay for it. And then the next play was the Pritchard play where he falls down, strips him, pushes the other end. I think to your point, it led to a three. And then in the fourth quarter, like on a holiday drive, stripped him again to get the ball back. And then on the other end of the floor, Deuce misses a three and he goes flying in and tips it over to Cat for a layup. And then in OT had the hit ahead to OG for a jam. That was great. OG had his sequence where he accounted for something like 8 or 9 in a row, but like you could tell OG, like I thought it was really encouraging early in this game where he hit the step back three on Horford. And that was his second three of the first quarter. And OG, like for people who have not been like keeping up with it, he was abysmal against Boston this year. He was something like 9 points per game, 36% from the field, 22% from three. Like there was no team he played worse against. Defensively, he was amazing. Offensively, he's been a total no-show in these games. And for him, like I wonder if Tibbs was just like clockwork orange style, showing him lowlights from those games because he came out and like the aura was back, the swag was back. I don't know if the Knicks somehow snuck Anne Hathaway into the building, but like he was like going at guys off the dribble. And for most of the first half, like after that shot, like it didn't totally look great. Like he was missing some really bad looks. And then third quarter, he just turns it up, like drive at Tatum, spin, help comes, hits hard in the corner for a three. Then a three off of like Mikal setting like a nice pin and screen. And then Bridges like saved the ball, got it to him again, another one, 9 straight in the third quarter. And then he had like the saucy, like stare down between the legs three on Cornette. I just wrote down in my notes in all caps, the aura's back. Another one defensively where he picks Tatum's pocket and goes coast to coast for a dunk. And then in OT, right? Like he's the 3-point, or he's the 3-pointer off a great Brunson pass, and then sets up Mikal for the three that makes it 106-100. Like I just thought the combination of like the handle being there, had the drive and the double pump play, his own shooting, but also like when he was in that zone, we saw better like on the ball passing from him than I think he's ever had in his NBA life. And just to have a couple plays where someone other than Brunson can generate a shot off the dribble, like I can't emphasize how essential that is for the Knicks offense being functional in this series.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest takeaway for me too with OG was like just the confidence in his dribble was back. Like it was again, it just comes down to like I guess it's all in a way just mental with him, because it seems like the skill is always there. It's just, does he utilize it? Or does he have the confidence to utilize it?
I think it's opportunity based too. Like I think he needs the ball in his hands enough to like get to that.
That is true. And also it helps when the way that this game was called
Mhm.
was more akin to how I think both these teams expected it. Like it was a little tighter. It was arguably a little too tight in the first half. I actually do like I'm not one to usually give the refs too much credit, but like I actually think they called a pretty solid second half,
Mhm.
all things considered, like right down to like I know there's a couple calls that like probably made both sides groan, but like the Brunson carry, I was like, yeah, honestly, that was a carry. And like the cat foul on the floor against
Mhm.
Brown with the final seconds to go in that was
Overtime.
in overtime. Yeah.
Yeah.
That one, like, risky by Cat to, like, try to get that foul on the floor, but then ultimately the right call, even though Brown tried to sell that he was in the shooting motion, like,
Yeah.
he definitely wasn't. So I thought the refs, like, did solid. I think OG benefited from that because he was finally able to, like, drive in and, like, have a relative assurance that, like, he was not going to just get hacked the entire time going to the basket. That was the biggest he was probably the biggest, like, I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but he was like the biggest loser of how the Detroit series
Mhm.
was called. Like, not that he himself was a loser, but like just in the sense of like he lost so many opportunities to potentially drive in and like get inside because he was getting just mauled every time that he went in, and because he wasn't like one of the two guys considered like a or three guys considered like a superstar in the series, he just was like not getting calls. This game, I felt like it was totally different. It felt like he knew what the vibe was, like what he'd be able to do and get away with and everything. And well, not get away with, but like just that he'd be able to get his moves off clean. Um, and then once that kicked in, then it was like, then he's saucing up on the perimeter. He's hitting those threes. Like once he starts hitting the like sidestep and step back threes, I'm always like in my head, like, oh, he's a different kind of OG tonight. It was very reminiscent of like when Brunson was out and he was carrying the team offensively on a night to night basis. So just a fantastic game from OG Anunoby to start this series off. But we got more to talk about. We got the bigs to talk about still. We could probably get into some more, well, maybe a little Deuce McBride praise, actually. He had, I think, his best game of the playoffs so far. I
Easily.
don't think that's a hot take at all. So we could talk about him and get some closing notes in on this fantastic game one in just a moment. All right, Gavin, we're back to finish talking through this 108 to 105 win for the Knicks over the Celtics. Knicks take a 1-0 lead in this series. Still feels weird to say. You could not have gun to my head, I would have said 5% chance that the Knicks start this series up 1-0
Yeah.
going into today. Based off regular season returns and everything else, there just was not a lot to be super hopeful about going into this game. But the Knicks happy, very happy to be proved wrong. I'm never more happy to be proved wrong than when the Knicks play really well. Two guys that maybe had a little bit of an iffy sort of game were Karl-Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson. Although at the end of the day, I feel so bad for the guy that he got forced in action. The only center that played in this game and ended up with a negative plus minus was Precious Achua, who unfortunately checked in and just had one of the roughest little 5-minute stretches you would ever hope to see in the first half. Thrust into action because the Celtics went to hack a Mitch very early in this game. I think they sort of screwed themselves a little bit by deploying that in the first half rather than maybe saving that for the second half. I think you can only really like in a game where you're running shortened rotations where the whistle was fairly tight, you can only afford to do that for like one stretch of
Well,
the play of the
KP
game.
getting hurt really screwed them on that front because then Cornette became more
Mhm.
essential and he had piled up all those fouls. So I
That's
think
true.
that's where it really backfired on them.
And so then they hit a certain point where I mean they were using other guys to try to get the fouls too, but then it's like, especially in the second half, you then are in this position where you're like, well, we don't want to get like Peyton Pritchard in foul trouble or whatever. Like this guy is a huge part of what we do, and like you don't want to get Derek White in foul trouble or Drew Holiday in foul trouble or something like that. And so either way, for Mitch, kind of a rough first half, but I think a pretty solid second half. I mean, he ends with 3 points on 3 of 10 for the free throw line, just horrendous free throw shooting. But 7 boards, 6 of them defensive, which I think was an area where the Knicks really needed his help in the times when he was playing. And then Karl-Anthony Towns, 14 points, 13 boards, shot 6 of 13. Like on paper, looks okay in like 31 and a half minutes, but I thought that he in the first half was just getting cooked by the switches and was not defending smart, was just getting in front of guys and using his hands too much and going up with guys rather than just kind of like standing his ground and staying upright with his hands up, and fixed a lot of those issues in the fourth quarter specifically. Third quarter, I think, was his worst quarter of all of them because he came out, got another foul early, had a really stupid offensive foul, which put him in the 4 foul territory, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
And then and just started making really dumb plays. Like he was clearly just like playing angry, and not that foul was just sort of like the apex of that, of just he wasn't agreeing with calls. He thought that he was getting fouled, whatever. He let that get to him, and then he committed a stupid foul as a result. Luckily, he turns it completely around in the fourth quarter. I thought that he was phenomenal on switches in the fourth. I don't know what he like figured out with Tatum, but just was able to keep Tatum in front of him way better. Was doing a good job of keeping guys bottled up enough as they were trying to get to the rim that then help could come and force the ball back outside. And I thought was just doing exactly what needed to be done. Like, just solid defense, moved his feet, did not use his hands too much, did not foul, did not get in guys explicitly in guys' ways, just kind of walled them off from the hoop. I thought he did fantastic. Other than maybe down the stretch, there was the one where like Holiday got free for like a layup, like all by himself. And I would have to go back and look. It looked like it was Towns' fault on that one, but either way, small price considering the rest that he brought on defense. And then so Mitch put together a decent offensive game as well.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty bad night for the bigs. I can start with Mitch too. I'm wondering if because remember he was sick for game 5 into game 6 of the series and was kind of questionable. Maybe he was all the way back for game 4. So maybe I'm reading into nothing, but I'm wondering if he was more sick than they let on, and he either was like just recently got healthy, or they were just having him like do minimal conditioning during that time. Because I thought from like the guy he was defensively early in that Pistons series, where I thought he was a game changer, and he was a game changer on the offensive glass, he did not look like Mitchell Robinson to me. Like he was getting toasted in space. Like first he was too far down on the screens on Peyton Pritchard. Then when he played at the level, like Peyton Pritchard beat him for a layup, and Pritchard has turned himself into a fantastic player, one of the best shooters in the NBA to that point. Like you cannot be down on screens against him. You're either you're switching or you're blitzing. Like you're not in any kind of drop, even with Mitch, who's like typically so good at recovering in those situations. But that was just like too easy for him. Gets beat off the dribble once by Pritchard. And then the offensive rebounding, to your point, like only one in the game, was not really there for him. The free throws, I thought, just compounded everything, to the point that the Knicks, even before they tried Precious, they tried going small for like really like one of the first times all season with like OG, the 2 other wings, Deuce and Brunson. I'd be interested to see more of that lineup, but the Knicks had some real rebounding issues with that lineup. So he goes to Precious. Precious clearly was not ready to play after sitting out all of last series, to your point. So rough night for Mitch. I'm hoping he gets healthier. I'm hoping he gets better. The Haka is like a real issue for him right now. Like if he's going to shoot 3 for 10 and KP's back and they have the fouls to give, like that could play him out of this series unless he's incredibly impactful in other ways. Cat, I thought actually had, at least offensively, a really good start to this game. Like he missed his first shot, but then like had that tip in, had the post up of Holiday where the Knicks played it really well because it was double big and Mitch was holding Cornette in the dunker spot just by being there. So if he couldn't double, Holiday doubles, but OG just cuts to the rim, and Cat fakes a pass to him to make Holiday turn around, then lays it in, had that baseline fadeaway over Brown, had the other double with, it was Holiday and Brown, but he's like, I'm taller than you guys. And he's patient and he flipped it. And it was very reminiscent of that game 4 where he had like 34, basically all on post-ups against the Celtics. The third quarter, though, I thought was maybe the worst 5 minutes of basketball that like any essential Knick has played all year. I'm sure I'm forgetting some. I'm sure I said that about Jalen Brunson when he was chucking every shot literally last round. But in my revisionist history, I'm going to go with that. Like shot clock violation when he wasn't aware of the clock because he was trying to work a double. Defensively, just gets like unforgivably spacey at times, and like off an offensive rebound, he is like, if you watch this play, you will never be angrier. He's just walking around, not guarding anyone, and Derek White hits a wide open 3 to make it 67-50. Then on the offensive end, Holiday shocks him with his stunt. He dribbles out of bounds, loses the ball. Literally the next time down, drives on Horford, falls down, begging for a foul. Like Celtics get a 5-on-4 going the other way. then tries to bully Holiday. That's where he picks up his fourth offensive foul, then drives at Derek White, misses the layup, and it's a dunk on the other end of the floor. Comes back to start the fourth and like can't get a rebound. But then to your point, in overtime, like he was really good. We should note, like we mentioned the game-winning play. Cat makes a great pass to Jalen on the give and go on the game-winning play. That Holiday play you referenced, it's like a two-part issue. It was that same hedge and recover, but Boston had been waiting for this all game where instead of popping, they have Drew roll the basket. So Brunson is mystified. He's in the wrong spot. And Cat is literally not even watching the play. He's watching Horford and he's ball watching to the point that he jumps straight up and down when the pass is made, even though the pass is going to his right. It's a layup for Holiday because he can't recover in time. But he actually learns from that. It's essentially the same play, and he rotates over to Holiday hard. And then Horford, like they swing out of that. Horford gets a post up. He doubles on it. Horford has to sail a pass out to Holiday, and that's the play where Mikal swats the three. He gets the tip in to make it 108-102. One more great rotation to make Horford or to make Jalen Brown like think about a layup at the rim that he misses with 42 seconds left. Like we've seen that a number of times this year from Cat. Like I think about that Hawks game where he's had a terrible defensive game, and all of a sudden overtime he looks like Hakeem Olajuwon, and it honestly might have saved the Knicks in this one.
Yeah, for sure. And another guy that certainly did his part in this game, Deuce McBride, just under 19 minutes, 4 of 8 shooting, 3 of 6 from 3. Finally, the real Deuce McBride shows up here in this game. I feel like this was like his first game where it's really felt like it's him. 11 points, 2 boards, 1 assist, 1 steal. I thought that the shooting with confidence early, he always shoots with confidence, but when they start going in, then you start saying, okay, your confidence is well founded today, dude. Like, and that's really all it was like, he plays damn near the same almost all the time. And, I think that the only thing is sometimes if the shot isn't going in off catch and shoots or whatever, he gets a little tunnel vision-y to try to get himself going. In this game, there was none of that. It was just smart plays. He was smart about not dribbling himself into rough scenarios. I thought that he had like a really good sense in this game of when to like reconsider his dribble and, pass it off to someone. There was a couple times where he started to get himself into hairy situations and I was like gritting my teeth a little bit. And then he passed out and everything reset. I think one of those he even relocated for a 3. One of his 3 threes that he made, I'm fairly certain it was like he started the possession with the ball, passed it off, and then eventually got it hit back to him in the corner for his 1-3. But either way, it was just, I thought, a really solid game from him on offense and defense. I mean, defensively, you know what you're going to get out of him. He's going to keep guys in front of him. He's going to help generate turnovers. Had one at one point where he was kind of just the beneficiary of the ball coming loose and managed to grab it, start a nice fast break. Like, I thought that it was a quintessential Deuce game, and like they're going to need more quintessential Deuce if they're going to win this series, I think, because they need some form of bench presence. Like, other than Deuce, it was pretty rough. Like, honestly, like Precious plays 5 minutes, not great. Campaign plays 3 minutes. I forgot that he even was on the floor, if I'm being completely honest, until I just thought about it. I was like, oh yeah, he generated 2 free throws at one point. Like,
Drew
only
Holiday was cooking him. Like, I think that's why Tibbs saw that and he was like, nope, you're not playing anymore. That's it.
So like, probably not going to get a ton of playing time for him. So then it's like, you're going to need like 20 minutes out of Deuce every night if they're going to run basically a 7-man rotation. And that's their ideal, which it seems like it probably is going to be. So I hope that he's ready to step up. I hope he's ready to keep making the shots, because like as long as he's making his shots, he's always going to be an additive player and always going to be a guy that you want on the floor for, a decent swath of the game. And that might be enough to earn him cutting into, Mikal Bridges or OG Anunoby or Josh Hart's playtime for just a little bit more on one given night if he's having a really strong night, which I think we saw. One takeaway in the first round was that, at least for game 1, like Tibbs was willing to go with a hot hand type player. I wonder if Deuce kind of will have that hot hand in this series at some point and be able to keep himself on the floor for like a crunch time, appearance and kind of close a game out one game. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But I think that's probably all I've got. If you've got any final notes to close on before we close the book on this first game of this magical second round series so far.
Yeah, I said coming in, it was essential that Deuce play dramatically better for the Knicks to have like a chance of not even winning this series, just making it a competitive series. And I don't need to say it again because I echo everything you said. Like he was just perfectly efficient in his opportunities. And to your point, I think because of that, like maybe tonight, Tibbs, go crazy. They won the game. It worked out. Like they're not going to survive this series with Mikal, OG, and Hart basically playing. I know it was overtime, but still like basically playing every minute. It's just not sustainable. So they need more from Deuce. Maybe we'll get into this more tomorrow if we do like a little adjustments episode. I think they're going to start needing to play DeLon Wright over Campaign because I think it's clear that Campaign just maybe against Pritchard, but like I don't think he can survive defensively in this series. I think this is actually a better series for Wright. So I would try him. And then final note for me, just because I think we kind of somehow skipped over Jalen Brunson in this game, the combination of him, OG, and Deuce shooting 14 to 26 from three, basically what allowed the Knicks to win this game. The Knicks as a whole shoot 46% from three. Incredible stat that someone else tweeted out. They make 2 more threes than the Celtics, taking 23 less threes. That's how you win a game where you miss every free throw and give up every offensive rebound. But Brunson's third, or I guess early fourth quarter run, a third to fourth run, we'll say. And that was all in the fourth, where he scores 10 straight points. It was the OG offensive rebound to Mikal to JB, where he banged the corner three. Then he cooked Brown on like a pump fake, pivot, step back to draw a foul. I said it in the wrong order, but you guys know the play I'm talking about. Then third play in the row, behind the back, out of a double into a step back wing three. I thought that was maybe like even the OG stuff. That was probably the dirtiest play of the night in my mind. 94-91, and then gets Horford on an island, hits another one, 97-91. The one thing the Knicks have to figure out going forward, and again, we can get into this more tomorrow, is like I don't really think Josh Hart is a viable screen partner for him, which is a really big issue, at least when Horford's on the floor. It is a really, really big issue when they're putting their big on him, because what the Celtics were doing was they would just have their big sink back a little bit, by Drew Holiday a second, and then Drew Holiday fights through the screen and gets back onto Brunson, and it's as if you never set the screen. And the reason they can do that is because they don't respect Josh Hart to shoot the three at all, so they can basically just put 2 on the ball, but they do without Hart doubling, so Hart doesn't get to do the 4-on-3, which like over the last 2 years is what we've seen so often, where they just blitz Brunson instead. They're kind of hedging, they're recovering, and the Knicks get no advantage out of it. So maybe if Josh Hart rolls in that situation, if not, the Knicks have to figure something out there. Maybe they can use him as a screener off the ball, but that is something I noticed in overtime. Alex, I think the Knicks had every reason to lose this basketball game, and they somehow win it. And the beauty of it is, like, I think there's so much to correct, but you're up 1-0, and if they played a great game today, they still would have been up 1-0. So that is incredibly encouraging to me going forward. Boston is going to shoot better. I think it's a long shot to win game 2. But you know what? I thought it was a long shot for the Knicks to win the series. I thought it was a long shot for the Knicks to win game 1. So we'll see if they can do it. Until then, he's Alex. I'm Gavin. We'll talk to you very, very soon here on Locked On Knicks.